I don't know if there's a way you can prepare other than making sure that you've got purchasing power outside of the system. But even that is in case of an emergency. I don't know. You would have to have people that were selling goods and services outside of the system. And if you were to exclude your or limit your buying to just buying stuff that people were selling outside of the system, your standard of living wouldn't be too high. But unless you like that, unless you like kind of living off the grid and you're growing your own food and stuff, and then hey, then it go nuts. But for most people, I don't know that that's kind of their preferred lifestyle. But I do think that it's advantageous in case of an emergency to keep purchasing power outside the system. But I don't know that that would, over the long run, insulate you from kind of the negative potential of a central bank digital currency. Honestly, I think the only way you can insulate yourself from is just go to a country where they're most likely not going to adopt it, or they might adopt it, uh, but they won't ban cash. So I do think that pretty much every country will probably move to it eventually, but some countries will move there a lot slower, such as Colombia, or usually emerging markets, because when you go to these emerging markets, most people are still using cash. And for them to just ban cash outright, that's very unlikely. Now, maybe in 10 years, but who knows what can happen in 10 years, and that buys you some time. So, I mean, I wish I had a better answer for you, but I really don't. Other than just from a standpoint of emergency, make sure you've got purchasing power outside the system. But again, I don't know if that shields you from a CBDC. And really the only way to shield yourself from it is just to move to a place that most likely won't have it in the near term. And even if they did adopt it, they would adopt it alongside cash. They wouldn't use it to replace it, which is what I think they're going to do in the West. A Swiss banker was interviewed, Monaco 64, on the issue. Based on historical past, it would change everything, including confiscation of cash and bonds. Okay, let me, and I'm not shaking my head at you. I don't know how. Maybe I don't understand the argument well enough. Why would they? Why? That would just be my question. If you're Jerome Powell and you're going to implement a central bank digital currency, why wouldn't you denominate it in? Why wouldn't it just be? They already are dollars for. Let's look. There already is a central bank digital currency. We already have it. You say, George, what is it? It's a bank reserve. It's just a bank reserve that's programmable. That's it. So bank reserves are denominated in dollars. They're liabilities of the Fed. That's a central bank digital currency. And in my opinion, when they move to a central bank digital currency, that's all it'll be is just bank reserves. The only thing they'll do is just say, okay, now bank reserves are, the way Lacey Hunt puts it, legal tender. But that really it's not even making them legal tender. All you're doing is just giving the average Joe or the citizen, the businesses, the private sector, the non-bank entities, the ability to have an account at the Fed. That's it. That's a central bank digital currency. There you go. You got it. So then the Fed can go ahead and deposit bank reserves in the account of average Joe, and average Joe, through his app on the phone, can spend those bank reserves at Starbucks or whatever. You've turned the Fed's liabilities into legal tender. Voila. you've got a central bank digital currency. So how is that any different than what? How would that interrupt bonds, as an example? Now, I could maybe see the confiscation of cash because they would say, okay, if you pay with cash, then we're going to charge you a tax. So let's say that Starbucks coffee is $3. If you pay with cash, then it's going to be $3.50. If you pay with electronic dollar, or with your Fed account or your bank account, that's just at the Fed, then it's going to be $3. So people would say, "Oh, no. I don't want this. I don't want this money. I don't want these dollars because I don't want this cash because it's worth less than than the dollars that are in my account at the Fed. So Fed, I want to send you my dollars, cash, and then I want you to give me bank reserves in return." The Fed says, "Doo, doo, 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 doo." Okay, done. But how does that impact short-term bonds? How that wipe them out? Like this is out of all the things I think I would be concerned with as far as global macro. This To say this would be on the bottom of the list is probably the understatement of all time. Granted, maybe there's something I'm not seeing, but and maybe I'll try to get through this really quick, but I just think it's a most likely it's a fundamental misunderstanding as to how the current system works.